Flying Joe. Know all there is to know, from masterpieces to deep fried tacos. And if the movie sucks, you might hear them say, there's no telling where the guys will take you. Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you. Better watch out, it's gonna ruin the plot. Real spoilers. Real spoilers. Real spoilers.
Broadcasting from the lush but not lavish studios located in the basement of the O'Keefe Institute for Advanced Film Snarkitude, this is Real Spoilers, episode 666.
Oh, wah, wah, wah.
Isn't that scary?
Just in time for Halloween.
Yes. We're pretty good like
so
that.
close.
So,
We're like
in-
2 off.
just
Can we get it in
in-
time for Halloween? Can we work to make it happen?
Sure, no.
Yeah.
No, just in time
That's
for Thanksgiving.
too much extra work.
Yeah.
Like, we're not putting that much effort into
If you know
that,
this show.
Yes. If
We'll do as little work as humanly possible.
Exactly. So, episode of the week is Eternals. Fun fact, it's called Eternals because that's how long it feels. So, let's go around the table and everyone can introduce themselves.
This is Joe.
This is Kevin.
And this is Tom, and we have a guest this week. Introduce yourself.
This is James from Geek to Me Radio. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Oh, he sounds like he's a professional or
Thanks for
something.
sharing all of our episodes.
No, he's on KTRS.
Oh.
That's not.
It's the best college station in St. Louis.
You know,
The
Tom's
K-
on KTRS, too.
yeah, that's why I said that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, I do movie reviews with John Carney in the.
Oh, all right,
Fridays,
okay.
Yeah. And yeah, it is a college. The K stands for college.
That's right.
Yeah,
Explains so much.
it does. It does. So, before we dig in, shameless plugs. Don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, iHeart, TuneIn, Stitcher, but not the Zune store. I had us pulled.
Spreaker.
Wherever you
Still-
find
still on
podcasts,
Spreaker.
you can find us. While you're there, be sure and rate and review. And
We got a new rating.
Oh,
So we're at 271.
yes,
Bonus.
Whatever it takes.
A milestone.
a milestone. And you can also follow us while you're there so you never miss an episode. And you can find us on the Facebook, facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. And the group is called the League of Show Sharers because we're hoping you will share an episode. People who were kind enough to share an episode this week: David Rojas, Librarian Cynthia, Brent Smith, Tammy Sherman Powers, Heather Sachs, Gabriel Lugo, Christy Mannering, Binge Movie, Spoiler Piece Theater, Colby Mack, Keith Noakes, Mike and Oscar, Minorities Report, The Movie Journey Podcast, Linda Wright, In Session Film, Geek to Me Radio, Chris Williams.
Hey.
You won't get that credit next week.
Brad High and Roll.
The Brad
Brad
High
High
rule.
and Rule. So, Chris Williams, Ronnie Castle, Chris Wilson. We have a Hulk, Matt Niglia, Feelin' Film, Ryan Terry from the Forza Crowd podcast, and Jump Cut. So, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it. And finally, our Patreon. For $5 a month, you get all sorts of bonus content. I think Joe is still making Halloween episodes.
I mean, I would if I could.
Yeah, so going over
Don't let
there.
your dreams be dreams.
I
You
mean,
make
Yeah.
it-
look, man, you open that door. I'm going to try to do as much Halloween
The difference between
content.
a dream and a goal is a plan.
That's right. Yeah. I
So-
can come up with a plan.
Anyway, there's all that. Eternals. If anybody needs me, I'll be in the bathroom.
So I'm my fan of like the cosmic side of Marvel Comics is pretty vast. Like Quasar, Nova, the Guardians of the Galaxy, all that good stuff.
Quasar. I'm trying to find Quasar number 3.
Good
You know
luck.
why?
I mean,
Well,
I
it's
have
not that bad. It's like $20 on eBay.
Oh,
but I'm
then
like
do it.
trying to find it for $3.
don't just pay the $20.
I'm shocked there's a Quasar book going for more than $5.
I know. Well, I know, but it's like
Every once in a while, it's like they accidentally introduce something that people care about, and then it goes, it's
Invincible Iron Man.
But the villain,
There's one.
in that issue, his name is Kevin Brackett.
That's right.
his
That's
real
right.
name.
And
Like,
that-
so why is it worth money, though?
That's a good.
Yeah.
That's also the great
Because they
part.
know one person wants it. And they're
Start
holding
jacking it up.
yeah.
But so the Eternals is a big old hole of like my knowledge of comics. I know they exist. I know they pop up every once in a while. So it was nice to go into this movie not really knowing a lot about them, and then I realized that they're just doppelgangers of the Justice League. And I was like, oh, okay, I get this now. Yeah, this is Marvel has done this thing with their comics where they have figured out that they can do like adult centered comics, right? There was a Punisher Max series. There was really that was it on that Max line. There were other titles, but none of them were very successful besides the Punisher one. This movie feels like the attempt to differentiate themselves from the regular MCU with like a more adult themed movie.
Well, to me, this felt like an art house blockbuster.
I could see that.
You know?
Yeah, I'm sitting there in the theater watching Cersei and Icarus legitimately bang it out.
Yeah, more like the internals.
I was like, is this like her?
But like
her body is moving like
right
to the thrusts of Richard. Is it Madden?
Yeah,
of Richard Madden's like movements. I was like, all right, they're not really shying away from anything.
He's
in
like,
this
you've met
kid's movie.
Icarus, but have you met Thickerus?
But that's one thing is that a lot of these, I mean, movies in general in today's world are so sexless. Like we've gotten away from, remember in the 90s, or I mean 80s, 90s, when you would have sex scenes, and you would have the actors that would have this, charisma and just the sexual energy, whatever. And so they've taken that away, and especially with this Marvel Disney stuff, it's like, a character hardly kisses or holds a hand. You know?
I think the one Cap kissing Sharon Carter in Winter Soldier, like, ooh,
yeah, it's like steamy, right?
So, excuse me,
mostly because he'd had his way with her aunt previously. Which
also
was
a valid point. Yeah.
So I think it was kind of cool that they're actually like, oh yeah, like relationships happen. This stuff's gonna happen. And
I'm
for
okay
them
with
to
the
show
relationships.
I don't know. We need to see him boning.
I mean, I don't even like making out or implying it, but like her body was moving to. Like,
I'm all for boning.
Sure,
I am pro boning.
Pro bone.
Yeah. Like if I was an attorney, I'd be pro bono, right? But like
what if you were in U2?
Yeah, U2 sucks.
I'd be anti bono.
Yeah, right.
I'd be the Edge. But
I see what you did there.
But like that's not what these movies are about.
But
Like I don't mean it from a prude standpoint. I'm like, it's like, but that's not what these movies are for, right?
I
like,
understand.
It's like, I don't need. I don't need a money shot in the Apple Dumpling Gang. Like it's not.
But why not? It's less than a minute of a scene in a 2.5 hour movie. But why not? It's a part of human nature.
Because
so it's taking a. I don't need to see Thor take a dump.
They have a stat, and like we've said before that Marvel has figured out a way to take different genres of movies and make them their own.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that. And I have no problem with them trying to do an art house like sci-fi movie. That's fine. But you've set a precedent where these are, I'm not going to say kids movies, and I'm not going to say family movies, but they are kind of geared to a younger audience, right?
They're not family movies, but they're family adjacent.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like you can sit around with your kids or your significant others. You can watch Captain America. You can
take
Thor.
a 10-year-old to a Captain America movie,
Absolutely.
and you're going to be fine.
There
are some households that might not be, but they're weird.
It's correct. And
Right.
Captain
But
America
there's
has
not
3
nudity
good
in
movies.
this movie. Like, let's be clear. If
There's
you haven't
not.
seen
No,
it,
there's not.
So it's not like
it's tastefully done.
That's what I mean.
That's fair.
It's a
I
love
guess.
scene.
I think most little
It's-
kids wouldn't
Right.
really get that he's balls deep,
Yeah.
but
Mom and Dad will.
mom and dad will.
Yeah, so it's
And we've
everybody
seen
wins.
Richard Madden's, do that before.
But I'm just like but like it added nothing.
I am okay.
It added not one thing to this movie.
How did it not add one thing when it's
So-
the relationship between?
But-
It added
okay, so-
one thing.
Yeah. But it's like it didn't. I knew that they were in a relationship.
You
We literally see them get married. Like
Yeah.
I know that they're in a relationship.
I think what's really interesting about this movie and the characters. So these are the Eternals are this super ability. I don't know if
The Justice League.
Well, okay, but but all the comics do that.
Now,
I mean,
time out. Now, wait. The speedster in this movie
Is the best Flash we've seen.
wears red and has like yellow accents on her costume and when she
Okay,
runs.
but we
Like,
could also again do that back and forth with DC and Marvel.
DC started or Marvel.
the
DC had
history.
the first Flash,
Okay,
so Marvel copied them.
But what's really interesting is so you've got the Eternals who are these super powered, they all have these different abilities. There's a lot of analogs with mythology and such, but also this movie felt so human, which is a really interesting thing they did because yes, these are these super ability creatures, these beings, but this movie, the way that it's filmed, it's Chloe Zhao, who is the Oscar-winning filmmaker. She directed Nomadland, which won Best Picture, and she won Best Director.
and that was good.
It was good.
But also though, like if you watch Nomadland, that is a slow burn movie.
Yeah.
So this feels like a slow burn Marvel movie. So I mean, it's the same
It
filmmaker.
just felt slow. I was waiting for the burn, but
but there's
I
Get
like
that
how
check-
it's slow.
get that
there's
checked out.
there's tons of action in this movie. Tons
I
of it.
but by the time the action happened, I didn't care because it was so slow.
there
right?
was
Like,
action up. I mean, there was action up top.
I didn't. I mean, I was mildly intrigued at the beginning, and the longer this movie went on, the less I cared.
So I'm the opposite. To me, this should have been a Marvel TV
when
show.
it opened with a crawl, I was
Does
like,
that bother you?
well, it bothered me because they've never had to do it before,
That's
and
fair.
so for me, I was like, there's something not right here. Like they are
see, that-
having to explain things before they start to explain things. That's not a good sign. Like there have certainly been good movies with crawls. Don't get me wrong.
Highlander.
Yeah, Star Wars, right? But like.
We definitely tell which end of the
But when
spotlight.
you're 25 movies in and they're like, maybe we need to add some explanation before we start this movie. I'm like, you've got 25 movies, you've got 400 hours of television, you've got all this web content, but now you got to stop and explain something to me. I was just like, that does not bode well.
In their defense, I think this is one of those properties that, for me especially, being a Marvel Comics guy, I did not know as much about the
Sure.
Eternals as anybody else. So that may have just been service to like, hey, if you're like James out there, here you go, just kind of setting a little background story.
I
didn't know
kind of
anything.
I agree though. I agree with James. It's like this.
I think
is,
there's a lot of people that are on. I mean, I'm a comic book guy and I've never read an Eternals comic, but I
Most-
hate the cosmic stuff.
But
so.
most
love it.
people, so you just mentioned of all those movies and everything, it's like the casual moviegoer is going to know nothing about Eternals. If you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2, you got the most about the Eternals of any of the movies.
you know
But I
what-
also
you know what I
feel like
wonder, though?
Marvel's really good at being able to set things up, and so why didn't they?
Well, I
they
think
have lots of avenues in which to do it.
Would have been
I-
a longer movie without the scroll.
Yeah,
That's true. Yeah, right. I think as I was watching this, I was like, I wonder if this was supposed to be the Inhumans. Like the way this is kind of
Yeah.
set up. I was like, I wonder if this was the original pitch for the Inhumans, and for whatever reason they decided to throw that on TV, and it was atrocious. It was so bad. But like the Inhumans are like this. The world is kind of the same, right? Like it's not the characters are very different, but the way this movie felt to me, I was like, I could definitely see this being a Game of Thrones style, like intrigue and infighting and things like that. And that definitely felt like this, not because it had Jon Snow and Robb Stark in it, but like it did feel like this may have been like an Inhumans pitch, and they were like, no, let's go this way. And I know I've said before that like they're gonna jump the shark. There's gonna come a movie where Marvel's gonna jump the shark, and it's not gonna hit. And I didn't love this movie. I enjoyed it enough, and I think this is kind of the one.
I don't think this is anywhere near the worst Marvel movie.
I don't think it's the worst.
I think it's the worst.
Do you really?
I'll watch Thor: Dark World over this
I
any day of the
wouldn't.
week.
It was very middle of the pack for me.
And and it did not need to be 2 hours and 40
There's no
minutes
reason.
long.
Well,
That-
I think this movie is going to be kind of revisionist with people. I think over time it's going to gain more appreciation because this movie is clearly setting up a ton of where we're going.
But it's not though.
No, but-
what do you mean? What do you mean when you say it's, what is it setting up?
well, the Celestials and everything. I mean, this movie is setting the groundwork. We haven't seen anything aside from Guardians 2 with Celestials.
Well, no, Guardians 1, right? Because there isn't No Land a Celestial's head.
It is, but I don't think. But you really see that in Infinity War, don't you? When they go to nowhere.
Yeah,
I think it was in the first Guardians too.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, but I'm talking about like explaining, like Kurt Russell explains Celestials to Star-Lord and how he's a half Celestial and all this.
Right.
So aside from that, we haven't gotten a lot. But going forward, now that we're introducing the Celestials, and now we have Ereshkigal, who's going to be, obviously, it's going to play a huge part in judging Earth, and then probably Avengers and Eternals, and everyone's going to have to team up. You know, we're going to introduce all these Celestials, and so this movie has to introduce a ton. There's a ton of the exposition with the CG stuff, which I think's handled well, but it's a lot to throw at you. There's a scroll, 10 new characters.
which I think is a little ridiculous.
That was
like
a mistake. Like there are too many
trim that
characters
down.
in this movie.
I think they did an amazing job with the 10 characters because that obviously is a huge undertaking to try to introduce 10 characters, but I think they did a really good job. Like I got to know each one of them. I think they all had a good amount of time. They didn't just say like, oh, that's one guy and he went away. Like I felt like in 2.5 hours we spent time with each one, understood their
we
character, but the character
We spent
development.
So much time with him. I
loved it.
I
don't know.
didn't get any of that. It's just like there's too many people in this movie, and like when they throw a bunch of people at you in Avengers, they're people you've all met before.
Yeah.
So like you're like, okay, Thor, I know who Thor is. I can hit the ground running here. You can't hit the ground running with any of these people, and so it's like it's just exposition dump after exposition dump.
So
it's like 80% of the movie is prologue as they explain who this guy is or why this lady did this thing to the other thing, and then Mork has to call Orson every time she talked to Brimful
Ishmael,
whatever his name is. Like it was like Mork calling Orson, come in, Orson, Nanu. I was just like, oh my god. I guess it works for the under 40 crowd because they don't remember Mork from Mork.
Right.
But it was like this. I'm like, this is totally Mork from Mork.
Yeah, I don't know. It just I liked all 10 of these characters. Like I enjoyed them, and I thought again for being Eternals, I think it's a really interesting that we got to see the humanity in all of them with their
but
relationships.
I feel like the only person that you get to see any sort of humanity is not Green Lantern.
What do you? I think there's humanity with all of them.
I think you get it with
with
Gilgamesh and Thena. Like you get it a little bit there. As much as I like, if I got again.
Cersei and Icarus with their relationship. Cersei caring about. I mean,
I was on board with
humanity.
Cersei and Kit Harington.
Yeah,
like that. I was fine with that. Man, Richard Madden sucked. I thought if I gotta see,
and Dane Whitman 11. He's clearly going to come back.
Oh, for
so
sure.
I mean, 10
you know
Eternals, but
we'll get to that. But there's another cameo in this that nobody's talking about. If I gotta see,
because it's
fact
like we
that
haven't
he's
heard
evil,
of any.
the fact that he's evil, Superman again.
I know,
and
but
I was like, can he just be the good guy just once? Can I get Superman to be a good guy in a movie?
I will say this was the best Justice League movie we ever had. I mean,
you're exactly right.
Seriously,
you're exactly right.
The way that the Superman stuff is handled, the Flash, the Speedster stuff, I really like.
I think
way
the Flash
they
looked great
visualized because instead of slowing down, they ramped it up.
Yeah,
everyone slows down, which again was really cool when it first happened. But now it's like, oh, hey, look, we look normal. The background slowed down. Like you can only do that so many times.
Yeah,
it even got old when Quicksilver did it in the
Days
Apocalypse
of
or whatever.
Days
of Future Past was
Future
awesome. But by the time Apocalypse rolled around, we're like, oh, this is like.
We're just gonna do.
Remember
this
they
again.
did it 5 times as long, and you're like, okay, this is worn out. It's welcome. It was really cool in Future Past.
Yeah, it was.
So I think that was really cool. They visualized. But let's go through the Eternals because there's a lot of new characters. People probably don't know.
You've got nothing but new characters.
Nothing but new characters. And that's so. But real quick, if they had introduced, I don't know, a character that we had seen before, some other event,
an anchor
that
you can build around.
Well, like even and I don't know who you would do that with.
I would have been fine to see Brie Larson and Captain Marvel show up and say, "Hey guys," like she met them while she was out there. Something.
Yeah,
that would make sense.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, so you've got Richard Madden as Icarus.
Okay,
and then you've got
Superman basically for people to understand the powers.
Cersei
can change matter.
Which isn't really a character. I mean, that's not one. But then
she should have made it so this movie mattered.
That's true. Athena.
Well, a lot of these are mythology.
Yeah,
are related to mythology, and that's another thing. Though I'm a sucker for alternate history, so I love how
and
the Eternals have influenced history.
I don't feel like we got enough of that. Like that would have been cool. But
every
like
flashback was basically
I think
influencing cultures and different artifacts. And
you do a 12-episode maxi series on HBO Max, or not? Don't do
HBO
Max.
I think that's going to be a Disney Plus.
Probably
call me crazy.
Yeah, it's a safe bet of each of these characters, or one character or two in that. Just to set them up, and then you can go into the movie. So you've got so Icarus, Cersei.
Okay, Gemma Chan, Cersei, Richard Madden, Icarus.
Angelina Jolie is Wonder Woman.
Athena. Okay, so she's supposedly influenced Athena, the Greek goddess.
I do like that line where she's like, no, A, drop the A.
That's what I love is that they're supposed to have influenced all these historical characters. So when people tell stories of Greek mythology, it's like, oh, they're talking about the Eternals.
Right, and then you've got Kumail Nanjiani. Kingo. And then you've got Gilgamesh.
It says as Don Lee.
It's Don Lee.
Different name.
But I think he was in Last Train to Busan.
Okay.
Then you've got Sprite.
Who,
if they could just get rid of that character altogether, that would have been great.
Oh,
she was terrible.
So she's
never trusted Ginger.
So Leah McHugh, and Sprite is supposed to be like the influence for Tinkerbell. Like,
Yeah.
Would she would clearly would have been the influence of Peter Pan.
That's what I thought.
like
when
I'm
they make,
just like
when, he,
when they
when-
make the Peter Pan reference, and I was just like,
oh,
but
she's Peter Pan.
She's Peter Pan,
Yeah.
not Tinkerbell.
well, in the comics, she looks like Peter Pan.
And she looks like
in
Peter
the
Pan
movie, she
here.
looks like
well, I know
Peter
in the
Pan.
comics, though, the history revisionist stuff is that she influenced like J.M. Barrie to write about Peter.
Right,
Pan.
and but what she doesn't even reference that she met the dude, like,
Yeah.
and so she's just like, kind of like, what are you talking about? And I was like, that would have been a good moment to be like, there's just so much.
Especially
and I
since
do-
it's all Disney and they're making references to Superman and Batman anyway, and it's like, how about you reference
that
Disney
was
stuff?
weird
Reference
too
Peter Pan.
when they
So-
referenced DC twice.
This is apparently what happens. I just saw an interview with Feige where he says Superman the movie is the greatest superhero movie ever made. You'll never top. Nobody will ever come close. It'll always be perfect. And he's like, he watches that with the creative team before they get rolling on whatever
On
project,
anything, really.
on any project. Just like this is what we
the feel.
This is where we want to
Like,
go with
right.
it. And Chloe Zhao.
Zhao.
So I guess before this, when they watched Superman 4,
They watched. So Chloe Zhao said
Zhao.
said that she took the inspiration from Zack Snyder for Icarus.
Oh, well,
And
now
when you-
Thomas.
When you look at, but when you look at Icarus, you're like,
Man
oh,
of
that
Steel.
makes sense.
Man
Yeah.
of Steel.
Like, because he's not the Richard Donner
BVS,
Superman.
which would be the best one, right, of all of them?
What?
Don't
No.
know qualifications, just right.
Justice League is the best Superman. I don't. If we're
The
Oh,
animated one, perhaps.
No,
yes.
of Zack Snyder's run. I'm just asking Tom. No qualifications. Is
I-
Man of Steel the best of all Zack Snyder's films?
I mean,
of all of his
Nope, nope.
films.
of all the
No, the DC.
Oh,
Nope,
It's
don't
the
qualify.
least worst.
Nope. No, it was a yes or no question.
but when you look at the way Richard Madden is playing Icarus, I was like, oh, he not only kind of looks like Henry Cavill, but he's doing a Henry Cavill impression.
I don't know. I didn't get that.
As soon as he started talking, and I was like, oh Christ, yeah, and and then
But he's not American.
neither is Henry Cavill.
Henry
It
Cavill's
doesn't,
British. Yeah.
it doesn't matter. The character is
The way he is playing Icarus is almost identical to how Henry Cavill played Superman.
okay.
So how does she know American Sign Language 2,000 years before it's invented?
I thought the same thing.
Like,
I thought the exact same thing.
and,
Oh,
and not only
and-
does she know it, other people know it.
Yeah.
She talks in sign
So-
language to somebody else in like 500 BC,
Right.
and they're like, yeah, what up?
because these characters, what's kind of cool about the revisionist history is that these characters are actually influencing humanity, like
okay.
the characters' technology, and so she maybe influenced the invention of that.
But she's doing it 2,000 years
Well, if it's her thing
before-
she invented,
But then
she
how
didn't
does the
plan-
other guy know it?
Well, they do it together. Like it's their way
But
of
it's just like a
communication.
dude in a bar. She's like in a bar doing sign language, and this other guy is like translating it. And it's like, and if she taught the language to other people, then why
Well,
is there no
Druid and
record?
her, that's
why
how they
is there no
communicate.
record of other?
No, but Druid and her communicate. The other guys were speaking the language they speak. He was translating for her, and they communicate that way. And so
I
these
just swore it was
Eternals,
another guy, like a non.
I don't think.
guy.
No, I don't think Druid and her communicate with sign language. Other people speak the Middle Eastern language. Or
Oh, you
whatever.
mean not Ezra Miller?
Okay, so anyway, back to the characters. We're still not through them. Just
So Druig, who is like a telepath,
Barry Keoghan,
Barry Allen.
who's awesome, who's a great actor, and I really thought he was going
Is
to be
he? Boy, they should.
Oh, really?
He should be glad that there's that Sprite's in this movie, because he'd be the worst one
Oh.
if it wasn't for Sprite.
Is he
I
Irish?
hated everything about this dude.
He was easily the most punchable in the
Oh
entire
he
my
was the
God.
most
But
punchable. That's true.
He
But I think
is,
he's supposed
though, but
to
he's
be.
in a lot of art house movies. But I think he's a really interesting actor.
He does have like a weird accent.
I think that may be something he's putting on. But
That's one of the things I was wondering. They come to Earth like 50,000 years ago. How's one Scottish, one's Irish, one's...
Yeah,
I mean,
like-
how do they have the different accents already? I'm like, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
So obviously it's a very diverse cast, and so the way I think it's presented is that the celestial
The
Ereshkigal.
influenced accents.
Well, Ereshkigal wanted to make them represent so they could interact with and live in different parts of the world and blend in, and obviously
Blend
each
in
one
before
influenced different
people
things.
were here.
But how would they know what
What the
accents
accent would
and
be.
ethnicities
Yeah.
were going to develop
Well,
into?
This is another problem with the movie, though. It's such a huge scope and over 7,000 years of history that, yeah, you can easily start asking these questions. I totally get that.
I think if it was a better movie, I wouldn't be asking these questions. I'd be enjoying the movie. But instead, I'm sitting there going, like, why does she know sign language? Or how did they know what the
I was okay with, like,
be?
the sign language made sense because, like, if it's sign language between the Eternals, I can
other
deal
people
with,
learned it.
I can deal with that, right? And they taught sign language, and that's how it worked. I'm on board with that. I agree about the accents, where it's like, well, why is he what's happening? Why is that a thing? So that I did
that
think
one
that
I don't
was
have
weird.
an explanation for. But okay, so Barry Keoghan is Druig. You were talking about Lauren Ridloff as Makari, and she is deaf.
Yes, she's the Flash.
And she's on The Walking Dead too. She's great in that.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
okay.
Brian Tyree Henry, who's
Who
another
I think
great
is the-
actor.
I think is-
Fastos.
He is the Green Lantern
Okay.
because John Stewart was an architect.
Bit of Batman too. I felt because
You think so?
he was the problem solver of the group. I felt like
I
he
can
was
see
the
that.
so.
And
Yeah.
so he does tech though. His thing is he influences or tries to create things and introduce them to humanity.
I gotta tell you, if they can find a way to get that Tony Stark gimmick in, where he's pulling stuff and throwing it away,
Yeah.
they are gonna find a way to do it because they do it in this one.
I thought it was really cool how he pulled apart things, especially
I don't
the
have a
little
problem
circle.
with it,
I
but
thought
it's
it was really
like-
cool. He was flicking the things away.
I don't have a problem with it, but I've just seen Tony Stark and Peter Parker do the same thing.
That's how they do it in this world. That's,
And then the other guy's like, oh, I can do it too. Bloop, bloop.
yeah.
He
That's cool.
influenced it.
He influenced
He
it.
did.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, 7,000 years.
And Ajax, Selma Hayek is Ajax or Ajax.
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 She influenced Comet, the cleanser.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Sure did.
I think she is the influence for Ajax, though, who is another
Influenced
yeah.
Quentin Tarantino. In,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There it
I
is.
was like, what? Okay.
Yeah, so like the premise is that the Eternals are on Earth to keep the world safe from the Deviants, which
Just a little judgmental.
a little bit, it's a
Yeah.
little,
One
and I
man's
do
deviants.
like that. I don't know, maybe you can touch on this. I don't know what the Deviants looked like in the comics.
They looked like humanoid aliens.
I mainly remember the Eternals from their appearances in the Avengers, their appearances in the Fantastic Four. Like, I remember I was just talking to a friend going to the comic book bin. Oh, there's a full run of Eternals 1 through 12 in the 50-cent bin. What else is in here? Nobody, they show up in like Avengers, and it's like, oh, that's cool because Cersei was an Avenger, Gilgamesh was an Avenger. But I don't know enough to say for sure, like, yeah, this is how the Deviants were supposed to look.
The Deviants
I
look
gotcha.
like green, red, purple, alien, like, humanoid, human
Which we
figure
get
with
later.
Just Google
Colors.
Deviants. What could go
Yeah.
wrong?
What could go wrong?
And that's another thing as far as the DC reference go, because this was, to me, a very Green Lantern thing. It's like the Manhunters were sent out, and now the Guardians have created the Green Lantern Corps to destroy the Manhunters and get rid of them. So, again, another DC touchdown
Yeah.
for me.
There is that's a great point, and I didn't even think about that until you just said that. That's exactly what that is. Yeah.
So these Deviants are, we learn later on in the movie, and we got to kind of jump around. The movie jumps around, but Ereshkigal and the Celestials created these Deviants, and they were supposed to be like keeping other predators in check, and they basically evolved into apex predators, and now they are just killing things and humans and whatever.
They were kind of supposed to protect life and
From
then
other bad creatures,
They
and
evolved
they-
into, like you
yeah.
said, apex predators. Now they're killing life.
Yeah, and so the Eternals are sent to Earth to now take care of these out of line, out of control
Right.
deviants.
And they fight them for a very long time, and
So like 5,000 BC is when they
start right.
are started on
Yeah.
Earth.
And they're building relations. Obviously, Druig and the Speedster kind of have a thing going on, and then
Makari
and then Icarus and Cersei have a thing that we definitely see play out on screen. So like I do appreciate that they're trying to build you because to the Richard Donner thing, Donner said that the only way Superman works is if you believe in him and Lois, right? You have to believe in him and Lois, otherwise nothing else will work. So I kind of understand trying to like give Icarus and Cersei, who are our two main characters for the most part. They're the two that we follow the most. It's funny watching this. I was Kit
Harington.
Kit Harington. I always think he's gonna do that stupid Jon Snow voice,
The accent,
and
yeah.
he doesn't in this. Like he
No.
has his normal tenor, his normal voice. I will say that the character that he becomes is like low key, like one of my favorites. Like I think it's a great
He's like
design.
Loki? What?
Nope.
Oh.
It's a great design. Like the story behind the guy is super cool, and we'll get there. So what the Eternals basically think that they have killed off all of the Deviants. They have a moment where Druid kind of says, I can end this right now. Like they're standing at Babylon, or they're standing somewhere where there's like a civil war where people are just murdering each other, and he takes control of these people. He's like, I can stop this right now, and we can let these people live in peace, and they'll never fight. There'll never be any hate.
Oh, yeah, I
There'll
don't
never
think we
be
mentioned
anything.
his abilities when we were going through it. Like, he has mind control,
Yeah.
and he can do it on a massive scale.
Like Jean Grey level,
Yeah,
right?
like he can control the whole Earth. And
Yes.
Yeah.
And the rule is, much like Superman the movie, is you can't get involved in human affairs.
Yeah.
Like, you protect them from the big stuff, but you gotta let
Well,
them
they
do
protect
their...
them only from deviants.
That's
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But
That's
you
the
gotta
question.
let them...
So people were like, well, why didn't they help with Thanos and the Avengers stuff? And so that's their explanation, the way that, you've got these all-powerful beings that can do all this
So
stuff.
are we to assume that they're so powerful that they avoided the snap altogether?
Well, I guess the snap only applied to
These-
people.
yeah, they're not
Since
humans.
they're not humans,
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. Okay.
But the flaw in their logic comes when the reveal of what they're really put there to do. Now it doesn't make any sense for them not to interfere with the snap.
Why is that?
Because if the whole point is to build this planet so they can harvest people to be fed to whatever Deus Ex Machina they
not
got going.
Galactus.
Yeah.
Who is the Celestial?
I can't think of the name of the
It's like, starts with a
baby
T, it's like
celestial.
Titus or something.
Steve, I think.
Steve, yeah. Steve the
silent
Steve the Celestial.
Yeah.
TSTEV.
Yeah, and
Tiesto? Is that one of the...
but then now you just set yourself back. You just lost half the planet.
So,
like, why wouldn't that seems like a moment where you'd want to step in?
but do you think that they? Now we're playing,
I'm guessing they didn't
You think
know.
they didn't know? They didn't know that
It's in
Thanos
all
was
the
gonna.
papers.
But they didn't know what Thanos was going to do. He did it, and then it happened. But I don't think... I mean, the Celestials aren't all knowing, right?
They're
They
not the
can't-
Watchers.
They're not the Watchers.
Yeah.
The Watchers know what's going to happen, but the Celestials are just doing their thing.
Man,
creating-
that's always a gimmick that I love in the comics.
But then you
is
think
when-
they would jump in when they're fighting Thanos?
But-
like once the snap happens and now they're fighting to reverse it, you think maybe they'd
Yeah.
be like,
get,
hey
get-
man,
You think maybe they'd get wind of that?
yeah.
That seemed, I mean, in their defense, I guess that happened very quickly, though. It's like Hulk snaps everyone back, and even the Avengers don't know that half the people are actually back until they see
But I mean,
Hawkeye's
they had
throne
the
ring.
big fight to make that happen. You would
There's
think
two
that
big
they
fights
would be a
in,
part of that
in
fight.
Infinity War at Wakanda, right? There's the big fight there, and then there's the big fight at the Avengers compound.
Yeah.
But you would think that
At that point, it's got to be
When they're
public
in-
knowledge
when they're in
that
Wakanda-
Avengers are trying to figure out a way to solve that.
Maybe the Eternals don't know about Wakanda either. It's that well hidden.
it's that well
Yeah.
hidden that then the Eternals are like, whoa, they
There's a
tricked
city
us.
here?
Yeah, who knew?
It's definitely a good question. But so that's the answer. It's in the trailer I saw later. So like, why? Dane Whitman says,
Dane
why
Whitman.
didn't you help with all this? And Cersei says, well, we are only supposed to interact with the deviants and like stop them. We're not supposed to influence humanity.
It's a union thing. Like they can't.
Because, well,
You gotta-
apparently, so what we find out later is that if you were to stop wars, then it would stop advancements in technology, which
Right.
then lead to, more people and reproduction and civilization growing. And so, should we just say the spoiler of what the whole point of this is? I mean, I think Tom kind of already did. The point
is that there is a baby celestial planted in the center of the earth, and once Earth has enough people on it, that will birth a new celestial, right? So you sacrifice Earth, and the celestial will make 5, 6, however many more galaxies in the process. You sacrifice X amount of billion for
It's like pruning branches.
basically, yeah. And because of the snap, because of the Hulk snap, not the Thanos snap, Ajax has a moment where she's like, I can't.
Tiamat.
Tiamat
is the one
Tiamat.
sleeping in Earth. Yeah.
I can't, in good faith, let this planet die. Right? I saw what they have done, trying to bring their people back. We watched what the Avengers did, which I was like, also join the flippin' fight after the fact, you jerks. Like, no need to hang out.
Well, I guess that kind of like they've all been playing by the rules, and especially even the ones that know what's going on.
Right.
So it's like I think after that is what's influencing them. But I mean, it happened.
It
They saw
happens,
it,
yeah.
and they're
And-
like, okay, I do get this now. That's what made them change their mind.
And so Ajax says, I'm not gonna do this. We have to find a way to stop this celestial from being born. Problem is, evil Superman is like, you're wrong. We're following Ishmael, and ends up like that's the whole catalyst here, right? Is the deviants are starting to come back. so they start to put the team back together, which I'm a nerd for, like a team building thing. This
Magnificent Seven.
Yes,
type of,
exactly,
vibes.
exactly.
I love that when they're like, I know exactly who's
I
going
like
for this job, and
yeah,
they go to each
I like
place.
going around and
Yeah.
trying to collect the group. This one took forever to get that done, but we got there eventually.
So this was was it like 2,000 years previously? Like how long had they been separated? It wasn't a couple.
long enough where I was. Where
Sprite asked, "When did you break up with your boyfriend?"
This
And
was
I
a couple hundred years ago.
Oh, was it?
I thought
Okay.
she said,
yeah.
I mean, again, this movie spans over 7,000 years. So 10 characters, 7,000 years, introducing all the celestial stuff. I mean, there is a lot.
There's
to
a
do,
lot.
and it's going to take a couple rewatches to really get the timeline. Because
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe
I
not.
don't.
Maybe I'm fast forward.
I wouldn't mind a rewatch. I've heard some people say
I'm
not
going
seeing that
today.
again,
I'm
but
excited to go.
I definitely would never say I would never watch that again. It wasn't on that level.
I think it's going to come into play again in future films. So you're going to want to like revisit what
I'm
they're
not
setting
entirely
up.
sure that's true. Like, okay, so I will say in the current Avengers comics,
You think we'll just never see Cersei in the other?
no,
Eternals
I
again?
think we'll see Thena like whatever. I'm just gonna do it now. When you get the Star Fox reveal
Mhm.
at the end of this, I think we're oh man, not a fan.
I love
Of
Star
Harry
Fox.
Styles.
Not Harry
I literally
Styles.
said out loud in the theater, I'm like, is that Harry effing Styles?
See,
No.
I didn't know
Oh.
who Harry Styles was, so
You didn't know who Harry Styles was?
I couldn't pick him out from.
I know the name, but
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
know
realize
that-
that was Harry Styles.
Oh.
Until
I knew
just
he's
now.
a boy band guy, but I didn't know.
I was
a little
more
bit
like,
more
oh,
than-
Patton Oswalt.
Yeah, that's right. As
He's the
Pep.
Polly Shore of Justin Timberlake's.
Okay,
Harry
well
Styles.
done.
because I'm
Yeah.
like, is that a Jonas brother? What is like?
No.
Is he a new kid on the block?
He is
Yeah.
not. No, he was
That's
not
what I
in
said.
sync
Is that
or
a-
the Backstreet Boys.
Is he a 98 degree?
Is he a
Man,
knight?
that's one band. They're like, we're getting back together, right? They're like, no, nobody wants that.
Is he from O-Town?
Oh, town.
Because I
Forgot about
that. Nothing else.
So
is that Nick Lachey? Oh no, wait, you already.
Nick
said
Lachey
that.
was
He
98
did a solo
degrees.
thing though, right?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
he tried
No,
to.
he did
Well,
Jessica
I
He
mean,
did-
yeah.
He did
Oh.
Jessica Simpson. Yeah, that's. I think we'll see some of these characters. I don't think we might see Thena or. Well, we're not going to see. Gilgamesh.
I think this entire thing is setting up for. I think their Thanos is Arishem deciding Earth isn't worthy, and all the Avengers, all the Eternals, all the blah 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 are all going to have to protect Earth from the Celestials that
I'm
are
trying to think if there was there a big Marvel crossover that had to do with the Celestials? Am I making that up?
I know they had an Avengers run that was Terminus, though it wasn't a Celestial. I feel like the Celestials always showed up in like Fantastic Four or Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
I don't think there was ever a big Avengers thing with
It was like an event.
Celestials.
They've always
that,
kind of
like-
just
Yeah,
been
I
there.
can't-
Celestials just kind of pop up, and they're like, "Yeah, this is what we do." And
The
okay.
Celestials actually showed up in Infinity Gauntlet because he's one
Yeah.
of the ones that Galactus
Yeah.
brought with
Yeah.
him to take on Thanos, and he
So-
mopped the floor.
Yeah, right,
so
right.
I believe Thanos and Eros are half celestial.
Half
Yes.
brother, yeah.
Because
they're brothers.
but I think they're half celestials.
I think
no,
they're- I think-
Eternals.
Eternals,
Eternals.
yes,
I'm
yes,
sorry,
I think
yes,
they're.
I was like-
I think they're
because they're
dad
demigods,
yeah.
but I think what they are is half Eternals. Which
In
is
the comic books, they
interesting.
are.
Yeah,
Because they're both the son of, not Highfather, that's DC. I can't think of the...
not High Father.
Right,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
Marvel's Highfather.
yeah. Sorry. So I thought that's kind of interesting that they're half Eternals.
Yes.
Just the good half.
That's right. Bottom half.
Yeah.
But like
Oh,
using
not wrong.
No, I'm not wrong.
Yes, I mean, this both can be true.
Right. Using the song that they use, and I was like, well, they're going to be in Guardians. Like feels like the first time. Eros is kind of the god of love, right? So that's kind of
Right.
why you get Harry Styles to be that character.
Mhm.
Sorry.
I
But
will say he had the most charisma of anyone in the movie.
as soon as he came on screen, right?
Yeah, especially considering I don't know who he is. I was just like, I mean, like I know who Harry Styles is. I don't recognize him on sight, right?
Sure.
And so I was just like, I'm like, I don't know who this guy is, but like, I'm like, yeah, he seems like like a name brand knockoff of Star-Lord. So okay, I mean, it's the most interesting thing we've seen in this movie so far.
I'm really
But
hoping
using
something
the
happens. I'm hoping something happens and they Don Cheadle this guy quick. Yes, I just-
Oh.
But using that song, right, is very James Gunn. It's a
Okay.
very right. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
No,
a very
that
it's a
clearly.
very
Well,
James
I think
Gunn.
Love and Thunder is going to be very obviously with Guardians and Thor mashing up. Guardians, we've said it before, set the tone for once it happened. Guardians, the MCU turned more jokey with more
Sure.
music.
And I got to
more-
tell you, as funny and I think as smart as Kumail Nanjiani is, did not work.
I
here.
liked him a lot. This movie.
This movie,
I liked
there
him.
were I
think he's brilliant. I think he's insanely funny.
I think I love him, and he was wasted in this movie.
Yep.
And I think that this cast had zero chemistry.
Yep, I agree.
There were so many jokes in this movie where I'm not entirely sure the actors knew that they were jokes.
I felt a lot of the jokes fell flat.
Like,
I'm not sure they were on set together.
Yeah,
There's some points where I was like, are
Kumail's
they
not
even-
in the last battle, which clearly shows me that there
if
was
they
some kind
if they
of a
take
conflict.
if they take him
when he just steps away
Yeah.
and then comes back at the very end, you're like, oh, he wasn't. I mean, he says he's stepping away, but I think that had to be a filming conflict. It's weird to not have him at the final battle.
But like,
It was-
what could but then
What
I'm
can
like,
he do?
what kind of conflict could he possibly have? Like, he's not a big enough name where he's like, I'm not going to show up to film on your $200 million movie.
No, I don't
Like,
know.
I got to
just-
make
but
Big Sick 2.
That's a weird thing.
It is
for
a
him
weird
to just
thing.
be like,
I
don't know.
I just
if I
don't
can...
think that that's what's driving
Okay.
it. I
Unless it
agree
was-
that something was going on,
Yeah.
but
Unless it was a way to kid him, because obviously finger guns in that last battle weren't
Yeah.
really going to do it. So maybe it's just like, let's save him.
if they move him to the Guardians, which they reference, right? They reference that Thor. He says
Thor
he
used to
says
follow
that
him
Thor
around
used
as
to
a
follow
kid.
me around as a kid. Now I don't
I
return my
thought
phone
that
calls.
stuff was funny.
No,
I
no,
liked
that's
it.
fine.
Yeah.
I
But
think
if-
it could have been funny. It just didn't work for me.
If
Like,
they take
on the
him-
page, it's funny. On the
Yes.
screen, the way they were doing it, they had no chemistry between themselves. When the Avengers are bouncing things like that back and forth off of each other, it really works. And they were trying that here, and they failed at every turn.
I agree.
I think
agree.
it's the tone of the film. I think the Chloe Zhao film, like this movie again, to me felt like the art house blockbuster. Like the way that Nomadland is a very slow burn and there's not a lot of action going on, and I think that people would consider that movie slow, like non-film buffs, I
Yeah.
think that movie plays slower.
Yeah.
And I think this movie is a Marvel movie that plays at the pacing of a Nomadland that happens to have superheroes,
which I
stuff
think is
going on in
fine,
it.
but then you can't do the jokey stuff. Like
But
the jokey
it's
stuff.
under-delivered. It's very much. It's not like a Guardians jokey stuff. The jokes are very understated.
His style of comedy does not fit here.
But he's not ramped up in the movie either.
He's
You know
not
what I'm
though.
saying? Like,
But like if you take that character, and I think maybe we will in Guardians 3,
you're
going
gonna get the Ragnarok.
He's
treatment.
coming.
He should have been ramped up in this movie. I think that should have been his thing. Is
Yeah.
that he's that's
He's
what
the
makes
goofy
him
guy.
different. Like
I think you would have been like Tony, like he was in a different movie, because I just don't think that would have fit in her.
I think
the tone of a
That's
mean,
the
what
reason
they
why
did didn't work
he
either,
had
so.
Karen with him, is because Kingo and Karen together. He was the human. He was the kind of the
Yeah.
more the comic stuff, and his lines landed.
we
I
need-
love that.
he's the
His
highlight of
valet-
the
He was
movie.
great. He
Yeah,
was.
he is great.
Kingu has a valet. So his thing for whatever hundreds or thousands of years, once the team broke up, he turned into a Bollywood actor.
Yes,
And-
he's his own generational.
And I guess it's a
Bollywood
couple
actor.
hundred years because they say
like
for over
75 or 100. I mean,
I think they said
movies
for-
haven't been around for a couple hundred
No,
years.
no. We're just talking about when they broke up. I don't know if we went right into it, but we were saying thousands or hundreds because he says for over 100 years his movie dynasty family.
Yeah, I think they split. I was reading this like 500 or 600 years
okay,
ago.
so
yeah.
several hundred.
Yeah.
So, but this part I thought was hilarious. That Kingu became a Bollywood actor, and you see all the movie posters, and you're like, "That's my grandfather." That's probably he has a big mustache in one, a beard in the other. Like he just changes his facial hair. But yeah, he has this valet that he's like, "Yeah, he thought I was a vampire and tried to kill me."
See, I want to see that backstory in a Disney Plus series, please. I want
Yes.
to see the whole Kingo
Yeah,
and Karen
I'm
thing
with
play
you.
out.
I'm with
That
you.
would be a great
Yes.
Disney Plus
Yes, it
series.
would.
That Kingo, yeah. So I love that interaction. I thought that stuff was very funny, and it's interesting that they keep bringing up vampires.
Little
They keep
interesting,
dropping
isn't it?
vampires
Right.
in these Marvel
It's
properties
interesting.
because we're
Yeah.
about to be introduced to
We-
vampires.
we
very
are.
shortly.
I do think that Camille's like valet. What was his character's name?
Karen.
Karen.
Yeah.
Like those two were in a different movie,
Yeah,
and I
in
think
a better movie.
Yeah, and I think Camille and Jami can do the serious stuff. The Big Sick is
Yeah.
a fantastic movie.
wonderful.
It's an
Amazing,
amazing
yeah.
movie, and he is able to walk that line of the serious stuff and
Yeah.
the comedy stuff, and he's fantastic. And the actress is also just as fantastic.
Harish Patel is the actor that plays Karun.
Perfect.
But he's great, and the whole camera gag of him going down
Yeah,
inside
cameras
the
do you
camera. He's
have?
following with a huge handy cam, and then it goes down to a DV cam, then it goes down to a
Like a
smaller,
handheld,
like,
yeah.
I loved all that.
So we should.
Yeah.
I'll breeze through this.
And
Pretty
he's
quick.
the human.
He is your human person to
Yeah.
latch onto. So Ajax, Selma Hayek is killed, and now the rest of the Eternals are kind of on a hunt to figure out what the hell happened to her.
So, but like we've
Cersei-
already mentioned earlier, is that so she started realizing that I'm not really cool with this whole growing
murdering a
humanity
planet.
so that a celestial can be born.
Right.
But you know what? Just real quick though, this is another reason, like with Thanos, I really appreciate villains like this, quote unquote villains.
Yeah.
Or because they're
They believe in
complicated.
their own cause.
It's not a mustache twirling, tie the damsel to the train track. Rocky and Bullwinkle, other references related. But it's not just that. It's like, well, Thanos really thought he was doing the right thing.
And he kind of was.
Well, but that's the question, right? That's what makes a villain.
If you don't bring back the snap, if the Avengers don't re-snap everything, the Celestial is never born.
Well, in theory, then the whole planet doesn't blow up. But that
Right.
was his thing. He was like, well, if we take away half, the whole planet isn't
Right.
destroyed by, so yeah, in different ways. So I like that at least.
Not saying he was right. I'm just saying, like, maybe we don't go to hell in a handbasket. If we,
But that's the thing, right? So the most interesting villains are the ones that have actual reasoning and believe in their cause. Of course,
Magneto.
it's not just
perfect example.
murdering people for no reason, right? And so, in this one again, the question is, well, some of the Eternals are split because Ajax decides, she's like, well, I'm not cool with this. We need to stop them. And then Icarus is like, yeah, no, we're here because of the Celestials, and this planet will be destroyed, but then all these other planets will be created, right? And so
The bigger
they're-
picture.
Yeah, they're torn, and Kingu stays on the same, is kind of with Icarus.
Well, he
He's
kind of
like,
says, he says, I'm not going to turn on you guys, on the Eternals. I'm not going to fight you, but I'm also not going to help you.
But he's right. He
Yeah.
says, like, we were put here by the Celestials. This, the end of this will mean the life of more planets and more creatures. And so I think it's interesting, and this is another character exploration of, like, well, what is the right
and
reason,
then,
right?
and
It's
then they
not-
wrote Kingu out of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. See you later.
And as far as the death of Ajax goes, I'm seldom the smartest guy in the room, but did anybody else pick up on, Icarus did it, like as soon as they went to the farm and found her dead body? Because I was like, oh, this seems weird. I think he did. I think he had something
It
to do
definitely
with
didn't add up.
There was
Yeah.
foul play. When they show up, you knew something was off. I wasn't quite sure Icarus was the bad guy, but when they get to the farm,
He's a Superman. Of course, he's a bad guy. We can't have a good Superman.
so he ended up taking her to some remote place where they were fracking or something, and deviants had been thawed out of the ice because I guess global warming or
Yeah,
whatnot.
which is kind of that's a fine. I'm okay with that.
Right, they're just putting that stuff in
Yeah.
there, and so
But they didn't.
What do you mean?
Like, right? That's not what he said.
What does he
They bent over backwards to not make it about climate change. They were like the Celestials, the ice melted. He's like, oh, because the Earth is warming up, the core is warming up because it's preparing for the return.
You're totally right.
They
They
did
did
that
say
didn't
that.
have
Okay.
anything to do with fracking or global
Okay.
climate change. They like it was I felt like they shoehorned in a line to basically be like,
to make sure it could play in China.
don't get mad at us,
Yeah.
Republicans.
Okay.
Like,
But isn't that
this
weird
isn't
that
about
they-
I
climate
that they
change.
conflated it
go-
because there were people fracking or whatever,
Right. Like,
and
I feel
ice
like there was
melting,
a
so
version where maybe
Yeah.
that was what was
Okay.
going on.
But isn't that
and-
weird that they
that's probably
they,
what Chloe Zhao wanted.
Yeah.
and
they
Marvel,
complain about this
Disney.
movie being woke, and they go out of their way to not be?
Yeah.
Like what?
I
What's
don't
the?
think the movie is woke though. So it's a
It's
diverse
not.
cast. They show a gay man and his family, but they never hit you over the head with
No.
anything because these are samples of life, and this is just a
Well,
normal
that's
thing.
I
and
think you hit it right on the head. Right? This is the world we live in.
this
now.
is they're just showing a
There's
sample
nothing-
of humanity, and
Right.
so every time you put someone in a movie that's gay, it is not being woke. It's literally millions of people out there.
Right.
So when the Brian Tyree
If you're going to scream woke every time you see a gay character, you're going to lose your voice.
Yeah, no
and honestly,
shit.
Just stay
them
home.
losing
Don't
their-
go to the theater.
Them losing their voice couldn't happen sooner.
Right.
Yeah.
Just because stuff wasn't as inclusive for a long time doesn't mean now that they're just showing up. It's like, oh, well, that's all. It's like, no, it should have been this way for a longer time, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
just.
If
Now,
I was going to get nitpicky, the only thing that bugged me is in the comic books, Phastos is the one who's deaf, and
Yeah.
they gave that to Makari, which
Yeah.
I didn't quite, unless they wanted the
Yeah.
engineer to be able to explain stuff while having to
Oh.
sign
That may
engineer
have
stuff, and I was
been-
like, So that bugged me a little bit.
Yeah.
That was my only beef with the casting as
I
far
would
as that goes.
guess that's the reason why. So, but like when they get to that scene and Phastos is on Earth and he's got a family, and a husband and all that, it's like they never once are like, we can get the camera like, oh yeah, I'm gay, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
just like, no, he's got a husband, he's got a son.
Pretty simple.
It wasn't
So-
about the gay. It was about humanity itself. It was that
Yeah.
family thing, like seeing Hawkeye with his family.
I would have liked to have
It gave-
seen them explore the idea of like, hey, I adopted this son who I will watch die in the equivalent of my life of about 40 minutes from now.
Right.
But that's always been the problem with people with eternal
Superman
life,
or
is,
Wolverine,
which is again
or-
another interesting. See, each of these character has a reckoning like that. Like when Icarus and Cersei, if when they break up, and then she's with Dane Whitman, it's like, well, he's a human, and can they be together? And that comes up early in the movie. She doesn't want to commit because she knows. But is it better to spend life with someone and be happy for that period of time, or never love at all?
There's a bit of a cop out there, is because Dane is going to be fine.
Okay, but
Right, like
but she doesn't
he's gonna,
know that.
Right.
And that's why he's like, there's a bit of a complicated history in my family.
And so like there's that scene where Thena is going through like they're back on the ship and they're going through a weapons room, and the one kid goes, "Is that the ebony blade?" And I was like, "You don't tease me. Like if you're gonna show the ebony blade, like it's
Sprite.
better." Yeah,
Sprite thinks that Thena has the ebony
but
blade,
it's
and it's
Excalibur.
Excalibur.
Yeah.
Oh, Arthur always.
Yeah.
So Dane Whitman's ancestors were alive during the time
Correct.
of Arthur.
Correct.
Yeah,
And
so
he
that
has
blade was
he
around.
has a different blade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pun intended.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway,
So
meanwhile, so what's going on is Ajax has died. They're trying to
Yes.
figure out why, and the Deviants are taking over. And when
They're
kill
attacking-
the Eternals, they absorb their powers.
One of them. The one.
Well, the alpha
Yeah.
deviant. So but also remember toward the end they show a flashback of what happened when they took Ajax, I think, and he like beamed those abilities.
He took Ajax's power, which she has the ability to heal, and then when he took her power, he kind of sped up his own evolution.
Yeah,
So
but he evolved the other
but
ones.
then
They all
he
started
put that
getting, yeah.
as this one deviant absorbs. So he only gets two, right? He gets Ajax and he gets Gilgamesh, who I think Gilgamesh was kind of one of my favorites. I was like, dang, like he was fun to watch. He was, I liked his power was cool. I was like, it's the Thing. I'm cool with the Thing. I haven't seen the Thing yet. That's fun. And he gets so he takes Gilgamesh's power, and then he becomes more human, almost kind of like the Martian Manhunter. Like that's kind of the look.
Yeah,
that he
very
has.
much. Where he's got that humanoid form, but
Right.
he's got the four eyes.
He's got the weird head, and the
Yeah.
head shaped weird.
And then he influenced Iron Maiden album covers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So Angelina Jolie's character her memory is starting to break, so she's useless.
So these Eternals have been lied to the whole time. Ajax knows the truth. She's
So
the
does
second.
Icarus.
She's the leader of the Eternals. Erisham, the Celestial, sent them to Earth with the purpose of growing humanity to feed the Celestial.
Right.
What did I say? His name's
Tiamat.
Tiamat. And so she knows what's going on. She keeps them in check, so the plan goes to purpose. Whenever she is killed, the little glowy ball of communication to Erisham.
That's the right reaction.
Orson.
instead of going to Icarus, which everyone thinks Icarus is the leader, should be the leader. Well, that thing chooses Cersei, and so anyway, so that moves to her, and then she starts talking to Erisham. But she learns the truth,
Right.
and we find out that Icarus had learned the truth, and that's why they quote unquote broke up those 1,000 years ago or whatever.
No,
it was.
well, Icarus left.
Well,
he wouldn't tell her the truth.
They broke up by someone leaving for 1,000 years and never coming back.
Right.
So, but he knew that it would break her heart because Cersei loves humanity and wouldn't be cool with that. Whole thing.
Addressing the whole glowy thingy, which I thought was a weird plot device and was never explained other than she possesses it and she can talk to it.
Yeah.
If it was supposed to be given to them by the Celestials, why wouldn't it have chosen Icarus, being as he's going to keep the plan on track, which again was another plot hole for me.
That's a good
Okay.
question. I don't know. I'm guessing it. My thought was that Cersei is really more powerful than we are led to believe. So yeah, Icarus
Well, we know
is,
she is. I mean, if she can do what she did,
That's why I'm formulating this. It's so Icarus you would think is cool and he's so powerful, and they all say we're not strong enough to beat him or whatever. But we find out what Cersei can really do, and I think that she really is the strongest without knowing she is, and so that's why it chose her. She's the strongest.
interesting.
Good
I will
explanation, yeah.
I will say in the current Avengers comic, their base is inside a frozen celestial,
I
which
love,
I think is. I was like, man, if we do that, and I was like, that's Jason Aaron's gonna be like, pay me that money.
well, I
Where's
love
my check?
Yeah, that's right.
I love that nowhere that's the
the
head of a celestial.
Yeah. And then like I said, the Avengers in the current comic books are using a frozen celestial as their bait.
Yeah.
As their
So I'm
base.
hoping they reel that back in. And why do we have a floating celestial head? What killed it? And I'm assuming that's going to be something that ties into when Arishem finally does show up.
Yeah. Well, what happens in the comics? How does Nowhere's head get? I can't remember.
So they never tell you what happens to Nowhere's head. Like it's just there.
Really? I thought there was a.
I will say I've been reading Guardians, like midway through the second.
And not in Guardians, but I mean like in other comics.
That's reference that became a big plot point in the Andy Lanning, Dan Abnett stuff, which is what the current Guardians are based off of. But I don't remember it being in the original run.
Hasn't Galactus killed a celestial?
I feel like
that's
positive you're right.
That might have been Galactus chopping his head off.
That's why I'm wondering, because I feel like that vaguely rattles at the back of my memory that Galactus had some conflict and killed a celestial.
I think that's what,
okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
either way,
so
it's a great plot.
They're
point.
getting the band back together once they find out all this stuff, and so they go get them all. We learn that Gilgamesh is rolling with Thena, and he's
taking care of her because Thena's memory is fractured.
Right, and so Arishem, Ajak on behalf of Arishem, I guess, is basically like, you're getting this thing's happening to you, and you're a danger to everyone, so you're going to have to go retire,
We're
get
gonna
your
wipe
memory
your
wiped,
memory.
all this stuff. And Gilgamesh says, okay, no, I'll take care of her. But what we find out is that, spoilers, they've all have had their memories wiped. We think that they were just introduced 7,000 years ago or
Right.
whatever and activated, but no, they have been changing the course of history for the entire galaxy.
I thought the wall of memories was pretty cool.
Yeah.
like it was like,
and they're saving
like
them
a
all, which is
beehive.
interesting.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I got kind of Black Widow Hulk vibes from they reached out, touch hands. Hey, buddy, sun's getting real low. Every time they would do that with Thena and Gilgamesh.
Yeah, a little
I thought it was
bit,
kinda
a little
cute.
bit.
Yeah.
Here's
So-
a little shorthand for having movies ruined for you for the rest of your life. Whenever a story introduces the idea of people having their memories wiped, everyone has had their memories wiped.
That's a fair statement.
That's how that works.
Yeah, right,
So
right.
at the beginning of the universe, the dark god Null created a symbiotic sword,
Now,
and used
wait.
it to decapitate.
That's happening right now in the comics. Null is a new thing.
King in Black. Yeah.
The King in Black
Yeah.
by Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman that has just wrapped up. That was a whole thing in Venom that he had the symbiote sword, basically.
Okay. But that's how the head.
I swear to
in
God, if they
lore-
bring in, so Null is like Venom's dad.
Yeah, he
Like
created
the symbiote's
yeah.
planet. So like we've just seen at the end of
Oh,
Venom,
yeah.
where they're like, oh, by the way, he's in the MCU
Marvel wants
now.
to keep using Spider-Man. I think
Yeah,
we're gonna have to
no
keep
kidding.
creating
It's
more.
the price we have to pay.
Well, I know we're gonna get Gore the God Butcher in Thor, and that was another Jason. Jason Aaron is like, oh, by the way, I've
Phase
created all
4
this
is his,
stuff.
yeah.
Right. This is all me. So we get the team back
Athena's
together.
getting this whatever this madness because her memories from being wiped so long over these whatever many tens or
It
millions
broke.
of thousands of years, it's not completely erasing all the memories, and so they're all trying to come out. And so she like blurts out like, you can't save whatever Centauri 6 something, one of their last missions.
Yeah.
And so it's not really madness. It's like, no, she's starting to remember.
Right.
Where all of
Her old memories are breaking
Yeah.
through. We get the heel turn, basically, where Icarus turns on the team and says, I'm not going to let you do this. The team ends up going full Justice League on him at this point, and it's the Justice League versus Superman.
Yeah.
And Cersei realizes the only way we're going to stop Druig, that guy too, is like, I can put this thing to sleep if I have everybody working together. That doesn't go well. It does not work. So they realize that
He's
Cersei,
powerful, but not like celestial.
well, yeah, and
mind control powerful.
not the Green Lantern figured out
Fastus.
had built this thing based on the little orb
Mhm.
that links all of them together.
Yeah.
That would give the character the power to put this thing to sleep. Doesn't
And
work.
what's that called? A
Unimind.
Which again is
Which is from
very
the
like
comics.
it's so Kirby. I was like,
Right,
I'm
yeah,
for that. Like I'm cool with that.
Like you hear that stuff in the movie and you're like, oh, but you're like, but you know what? They're being true to the comics.
No, I'm
So,
totally. When
yeah.
they called it the Unimind, I was like, that's the most Jack
Yeah.
Kirby thing
Yep,
they've
yep,
said,
yep.
and I am for it. Cersei realizes this is the only way this is going to happen if I do this, and she basically uses her powers.
She thinks she can only change
Transmute
inorganic matter.
but she transmutes a
deviant.
A deviant.
So
And
we
they're like-
see that she could turn a deviant into a tree. How you do that?
which I
And
thought was pretty cool.
it was very cool.
Yeah.
And that's the hint at, oh, she can do more than just.
Right.
She thinks she can turn a bus into sand and a tree into whatever.
She's
And-
Firestorm of the Justice League.
Thank
I just remember.
you.
I'm like,
Yes,
she is a
that's
Justice
yes.
League. Yeah.
Firestorm is exactly what that is.
So she's like, okay, if you guys all connect to me, I can try to basically kill this Celestial by turning him into something else.
Right.
And so they want to all take their power and do that, but Icarus is like, nope.
Nope. But then we realized that if they come together anyway, they all kind of link up. This was the one part I didn't
What do you mean?
understand. Where like Cersei's using her power, right?
Mhm.
And as she's starting to do what she's doing, all of a sudden, all of the other Eternals link up with her.
Because of the Unimind.
But why would Icarus wouldn't have the Unimind?
They didn't join willingly, and she even says, like, "What? How did this happen?" She
Right.
says, "Oh, the baby. So the baby Celestial basically killed itself because it said I felt it join the Unimind as well." I'm like, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right.
That kind of was a little bit of a disconnect for
Yeah,
me.
so basically, like, basically these Celestials don't have to aren't just pawns. Like, they also have a say in this stuff.
Correct.
And so it basically awoke and was like, yeah, I don't want to kill 7 billion people either.
But that wasn't explained
Yeah,
well.
I
Like,
didn't
it's
get
like,
that at
oh,
all.
I'm getting a sense from this thing that it doesn't want to.
But that's what they're saying is that, like, it was, since the Unimind was connecting them to it also was like, yeah, I'm not going to go.
Oh.
Or in its infancy, it
gave
didn't
up.
know better. It
Yeah.
just like, oh, we're connecting. Oh, cool. Wait a minute.
I could do that.
But it purposely didn't fight back.
Right.
Right.
It did not. And I thought this visual of like
Yeah.
the hand coming out and half the head popping out.
I was
like,
confused
that was
because it
pretty
looked
cool.
like ice. And
Well,
I'm like,
that-
won't that melt? But it's marble. She turned
Right.
into marble. But the visuals, like,
It's the Marvel cinematic.
The Marvel
universe.
cinematic
Yeah.
universe. Yeah,
as
right.
cool as it looked, though, I was confused. I'm like, well, if they just freeze it, it's going to unfreeze. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Right.
preserved.
Depending
but
on, but it's right by like the one in the comics, they're in the Arctic,
Yeah.
right? So it's not gonna.
I don't think
unfreeze.
they do a good job of saying it was marble. I,
I
don't know, to
never
me,
knew when you said. I didn't even know that.
That's what I'm
till you
saying.
just said
It
that.
doesn't look like ice. Like, it looked cool. But
It did.
I'm like,
Yeah.
So anyway,
So Icarus realizes
but Icarus
that he
joined.
didn't have a choice.
Yeah, it all connected.
Yeah.
Them,
And I think Icarus kind of realizes he was wrong. I guess.
well, yeah.
And he flies in, and
'Cause
I
he
was
has a
like,
chance to
okay,
kill-
That's a little on the
a little
nose.
on the nose,
Yeah.
he had a chance to kill Cersei,
and he wouldn't do it.
while she was turning the
Well,
thing.
he's influencing history from
Game
2,000
From
years ago.
2,000 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And but he doesn't. And then because he betrayed, I mean, he murdered their family
Yeah.
and did all these horrible things. And so
He got
killed
Gilgamesh
himself.
killed.
Yeah.
He killed Ajax. Flies into the sun.
That's as
I was
close
like, well, that was
to the
dumb.
sun as you can get.
Yeah.
Like, into it. Yeah, that's pretty close.
Well, you'll melt before you get into it.
He's
so-
Icarus.
Well, he's an Eternal. He's not a.
He's got to
Well,
get
then
in
if
it.
he's really an Eternal, then
He's
going
coming-
into the sun's just going to hurt.
He's coming back.
Well, so the thing is, they keep all their memories.
Right. There's
they-
a whole
whatever.
nother. There's a whole other Icarus body waiting.
Yeah,
at the
they-
World
so-
Forge or wherever.
Yeah, and in the comics, the Eternals can't really die. They just create one, put their memory in there, so he's not gone.
Oh,
Yeah,
he's
Richard
like a
Madden's
SIM
like,
card.
yeah, I get to
they
come
backed
back.
it up. The cloud.
They backed it up
Yeah.
to the cloud.
Yeah.
So Ishmael shows back up.
Who's Ishmael?
That's this.
Ashram?
Sure.
Orson.
Orson, and kind of takes the other Eternals, with the exception of Thena and Gilgamesh, and says, "Look, you've just killed a Celestial.
Oh,
I will-
Ashram the judge.
Yes,
Should
right.
say, 'cause-
I will let this planet stay for now. You're coming back with me, and I'm going to go through your memories, and we'll see if this place is worthy to stay. If not, I'm coming back and I'm squishing it."
So my guess is that they're not going to be deemed worthy, and that's what the new team of all the people
Right.
we're being introduced to will have to fight. Just a guess. I mean, they could.
I think
go-
that's a safe
Or
bet.
they ignore it completely.
They
ignore
could.
that plot device.
Yeah.
Galactus shows up, and no, they can't stop Galactus. All of a sudden, here comes the Celestial. Nope, and smacks
Yeah.
Galactus away. So
Yeah.
Man,
Exactly.
I can't wait for a good Galactus. Stupid cloud. So then that's kind of, so we've got, this is where we get the introduction of Star Fox, where we've got Thena and
I didn't like the Patton Oswald dwarf.
I gotta
thing.
tell you,
I just
that
Pip was great.
Pip
I thought,
was the most comic accurate thing.
but I thought they were going to show Adam Warlock. I'm like,
I
here we
did
get Adam Warlock, our first
Yeah.
reveal. That's
I
why they
was
went ahead
soon.
and told
I
the
thought it
characters.
was going to be
soon.
Nova.
Oh, okay, yeah,
They're
that
not-
would be cool
James,
too.
yeah, James Gunn's not going to let him do that yet. He's got that coming up
That's Will
because
Poulter.
that's cast. Yeah, Will Poulter.
who looks jacked.
Well, yeah, he looks. Because
Yeah.
at first I'm like Will Poulter because he always kind of looks like that nerdy, meek guy. But
I
he's
think
been-
of the kid from
We're the Millers.
We're the Millers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, that is not the
But-
same kid.
I think they were like, well, if we can get Kumail Nanjiani jacked.
yeah.
We can get this kid
And he
jacked,
is.
too.
Yeah.
He still is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's stayed in shape.
But I don't know. The Patton Oswalt thing didn't work for me.
They're
I don't
buddies
know
though.
why.
Like that's the thing. Star Fox and Pip
yeah.
are
No,
together.
the
and
character thing isn't my problem. I don't know. I just
Star Fox
it's
is
kinda
also an Avenger at one point. Like
Yeah.
and then the final post credit scene. He says your friends are in trouble. I'll help you find them.
You know what, Harry's like, if you think about it, You got
This
Harry Styles, the god of love, looks all Harry Styles-ish.
Yes.
Thanos is a big purple grimace guy. It's
it depends on the mom.
I know. I'm just
They have
saying,
different moms.
I'm just. I know.
Don't
I'm
want to
just
see
saying, it's
Thanos'
like-
mom in a good light. Ooh.
I'm just like, man, one of your kids is Harry Styles, one is Grimace. Like, it's just,
So the
no wonder
second,
Thanos is evil and wanted
Yeah,
to kill
that's
all
right,
these
yeah,
planets.
that's right,
I could have
that's
looked
right.
like that.
So the second post-credit sequence is Dane Whitman back in his
I think it's his uncle's
wherever
castle
he is.
that he inherits.
He's got
Sir Percy.
because his uncle was
so-
Because he starts to reveal this to Cersei.
that he's got a little bit of a family history.
Because he's like, oh, my family's a little
By the way, I've got
complicated.
some-
Well,
I've got
she
some
calls
secrets
and
as
says
well.
you need to make good with your uncle because she
Yes.
thinks it's the end of the world. So that
Yeah.
uncle is the old
Uncle
Black
Percy.
Knight.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
evil Black
the
Knight.
original Black Knight.
So I
yeah.
think that
well,
this
not the original,
one,
but like the
so
one before.
I think this is his castle
ebony
that he's
blade, yes.
inherited.
So there's a big like case in front, and he lifts it up, and there's a sword in the case that is wrapped up in like bloody gauze. And I thought this effect was super cool. Like the blade moves like as Dane goes to touch it, and then to me, well, again, not low key, one of my favorite characters, but one of my favorite Marvel characters of all time.
Yeah.
Spent a decent amount of money on a certain comic book, so I had his first appearance, which I do now own. Thank you very
Avengers
much.
48?
No, Tomb of Dracula.
The original Black
Yes.
Knight then. Oh,
no,
wow.
no. The character that utters the words.
Oh, that
character. Yes.
Okay.
Way to bury
I
the
think it meant
lead.
Black Knight, sorry.
So that there's as Dane goes to pick up the sword, there's a voice that comes from behind him and says, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And that is Blade.
Mahershala Ali, the new Blade.
does the voiceover for Blade. He's in this.
We don't see him.
We don't
It's
see
just
him.
his
It's just the voiceover. So I have to believe that the Blade movie that is moving forward will be Dane, the Black Knight, and Blade fighting vampires in London.
That could be cool.
Which sounds amazing. Yeah, Tomb of Dracula number 11, I think. I think that's right.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
9 or 11. It's an odd number,
Oh,
but yeah.
man. That was my grail.
There you go.
Yeah, I thought this was mid-tier. I enjoyed it. I didn't hate it. I don't really get the hate that's coming its way. It doesn't
That's
make a lot
Tom.
of sense. I mean,
It's a snooze.
I get that. I
It was just
think of this
bored.
as like that
I've
that
never
12
been
issue.
bored in a Marvel movie before.
But to me, sometimes the superhero movies can be boring because they're just so action packed and big lights.
yeah,
in
I
the
mean,
sky.
it could be. Yeah,
I love
so
it when they
much,
do different things, and this movie is so different for a Marvel movie that I
just didn't work for
latched-
me.
you
I'm
know,
not.
yeah.
I'm not going to reward it just for being different. It
I was
also
bored
needs
with
to
Thor
work.
2. I've seen Thor 2 maybe twice.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, I
never-
think Thor 2, Iron Man 2, and this are kind of on the
Yeah. Well, based on
lower.
the box office,
yeah,
it is a big giant turd.
yeah, and I cannot. That's
Which
the other
makes me
thing.
wonder how much more Eternals you're going to
Well,
get.
I think you're
when-
going to get
because
Camille in Thor or Guardians.
so to
And I
start
think-
picking characters.
You might
off
see
and-
the characters pop up, but I don't know that you'll get an Eternals 2 based
No.
on this.
No,
Like, they're
I
going
don't
to have
think
to.
so.
One of the producers said too, like the whole Phase 4 and 5, whatever, isn't roadmap from this. So like, it could be a standalone. It could be more like
Yeah.
it's not automatic that an Eternals 2
trilogy,
will ever
right.
happen. Exactly.
Yeah.
What's it projected to make?
30.
Yikes. Ouch.
I just
You can't blame that on the pandemic, man.
I think they have not
Because
done a great
Shang-Chi
job.
I
opened
know.
to 94.
Oh, no, that was-
It just did like this opened to a third
But the fact-
of what Shang.
it's just
Shang-Chi felt like a Marvel
Shang-Chi
movie
did.
too. This one didn't.
Yeah.
It felt like
This
it felt like a
Shang-Chi-
really good DC movie.
That's
Yeah,
why
yeah.
the fact that it doesn't feel like a Marvel movie is clearly why audiences are not going to latch
Yeah.
onto it as much. But the fact that Venom 2 made the
90
90
opened to
million?
90.
because a bunch of teenagers want to go see Woody Harrelson throw a bunch of f bombs. That's why. I mean, it just.
it just makes me sad.
Yeah, I mean,
I just hate that movie so much.
I
And
did
this
not like
movie-
Eternals, but it's way better than Venom. Either of
There
the
you
Venom
go.
movies, like
so it made a third of Venom 2, and
Yes.
it's like, how does that happen?
yeah,
That's
it's-
crazy.
So
It's-
I think you will.
Here's the. This is. I guess this is the way I feel about it. Is I cannot fault Marvel for at least trying to break that mold.
Totally.
Right. Like
Yeah.
I totally get
I hope
it.
this doesn't discourage them from trying.
That's the
different
problem
things.
That's the
too. Is
problem.
now
But-
are we just going to get
But
the exact same?
but it's like, but if you reward them for something that's not very good, then they're just going to keep giving you the same things that are not very good.
I'm interested to see what Spider-Man looks like. Right. Like they've already announced that runtime, and it's stupid.
if
like,
it's
Spider-Man's
if
gonna
it's
be crazy.
action,
I guess
and we're getting
that's
all
true.
the cameos and the Easter eggs, I'd be down for watching a 2.5-hour Spider-Man movie. That's fine.
Yeah, that's fair.
Time is never an issue if used effectively. I mean, we watched 3-hour Lord of the Rings movies, and we watched.
I mean, the James Bond flick was.
yeah, I thought that was
Yeah.
great. So I mean, time isn't the issue. The issue is how
if
do
it's
you
good,
use
the
that
runtime won't feel like the runtime.
That's
I mean,
fair.
I've seen 90-minute movies that
Dune.
felt like 3 hours.
I thought Dune flew by. It was 2.5.
I thought
right?
Dune cruised at it had moments
because
that
it never
it's-
stopped. It was pretty much like stuff's happening and kept up with the pace. So I mean, with that Spider-Man, with all the rumors, and we already know some of the villains in it and
Yeah.
stuff, like I have a feeling it is going to fly by because they're just going to.
If he wears that black suit, I swear to God.
As long as it looks comic book accurate, I don't want some black suit that looks like his movie costume suit that
Give me
was
the-
just worthless.
Yes, I agree.
As
Give
long
me
as he
the-
dances, I'll be fine.
Oh,
I
God.
just
That's all
you
they need
have
is a
you know
dance.
that's going to happen. If he's in this
You think
movie,
they're going to poke fun at
they
it somehow?
have to. I mean,
Dance off.
I guess they've already
Dance off.
they've already
Between-
done it in Spider-Verse. They've already kind of
Yeah.
poked fun at it, but yeah.
I think part of the problem with Eternals, though, is Marvel set themselves up a little bit for failure by Kevin Feige coming out and saying this will be an Oscar contender. It's like,
Yeah.
well, you're setting the bar pretty high.
Yeah,
And we've got this
not
great
bad.
cast. Look at all these huge, big names. Because a lot of these people, Chris Hemsworth wasn't a household name until.
Sure.
So I
None
think
of them
the fact
were.
that they've got
Yeah.
all these big name actors, I think they kind of set themselves up for a bit of failure.
The only I feel like the only like movie star they cast in any of the roles was Robert Downey Jr. and that was
And he was
and,
on the
and they were moneyballing it as
Oh,
we
yeah.
talk, like he couldn't open a film, but people knew who he was.
Well, Angelina Jolie's a movie star.
Salma
bona
Hayek.
fide.
Yeah.
Salma Hayek is pretty.
I would
good.
agree.
I mean,
Glenn Close.
Is
what?
Glenn Close. I mean,
As a basically a cameo.
yeah, but I mean, she's still like.
well, in that
that's-
case, Robert Redford. But
Right,
I meant as
yeah.
one
But
of these
for
key
these characters.
But Angelina Jolie, man, like I don't think Angelina Jolie's a movie star.
she's
I'm
a
with you.
movie star.
No way.
I mean, she was.
She's
When's the last time she opened a movie?
What's the name an Angelina Jolie movie that?
But in
that,
the 2000s, she was a
she was
bona
in
fide movie
she
star.
was in a lot of movies that were supposed to be big, but she wasn't in very many movies that were actually big.
Yeah, she did the Megan Fox thing.
Name an Angelina
Salt.
Jolie movie that they would want to reboot.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
That was a reboot.
Tomb
Yeah.
Raider.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So
Tomb Raider.
They did reboot Tomb Raider, though.
and what did it do?
Not as well. Did it do better?
I think
could-
it maybe
it
did
is better.
I think it maybe
Yeah,
did
it
a
is-
little better.
It definitely
but,
is a better movie.
But I don't think they're making a second one, are they?
No.
So I mean,
But I think
and
okay.
even
I think,
then, and that's not
Girl,
that's
Girl Interrupted.
Tomb
Oh, my
Raider.
gosh,
I would
that
also
is a-
argue isn't an Angelina Jolie movie. It's a Tomb
Tomb
Raider
Raider
movie,
movie.
right?
We all
But
know-
even then, it was like it barely squeaked out a sequel, and then that to bed, and you never got any more of
well,
it.
if we're talking about masterpieces, Hackers, obviously, I mean,
All
that
right.
is the best. But
I just don't think for someone who's super well known, I don't think she can actually open a film.
I don't think so
but
either.
I thought she is a really good actor, though.
I mean, there have been times
she's-
I don't care for her at all.
Okay, and I think she was good in this, and I like that. Like they didn't have to
I
make.
thought she was
her-
wasted in this. I thought it was stupid to bring in somebody of Angelina Jolie's
I-
caliber, even though I don't like her, and then be like, oh, and she basically doesn't talk and can't
But I thought
remember
those
anything and
scenes,
doesn't
but
interact.
the gravitas she brought to those struggling with the memories, I thought she did a good job.
Yeah.
And I think Gemma Chan, who plays Cersei, is
yeah.
so. She's got that star quality to her. I mean, I really liked her in Crazy Rich Asians, and I don't think she's going anywhere anytime soon. And I don't know, I really liked her. She's got that heart. Like you
I would
follow
agree with
her as
that,
the
yeah.
lead. If there's a lead in this movie, it's her, and I think she sells that her compassion for humanity and her struggles with everything going on. I thought she did a really good job. But
She's definitely better in this than she was in Captain Marvel. So
yeah, I didn't even remember she was in Captain Marvel until recently. So anyway,
Well,
There you
anyway,
go.
I guess that's it for this one. Let's go around the table, and everyone can say where to find them.
This is Joe. You can follow me on the Twitter at JoeyButts, BUTTS21.
this is Kevin. Follow me on Twitter at Kevin R. Brackett.
And remind everybody where they can find you and your wares.
you can find James at Geek to Me Radio on Twitter and Instagram.
And he does a great show. James does interviews with people. I mean, it's called Geek to Me Radio. Comics, television, movies, but these interviews he does. Seriously though, seek his stuff. You can get all your backlogs on a podcast, right?
Yeah, geektomeradio.com is the doorway to all the previous stuff we've
Yeah.
done.
So go back and listen to his back catalog of interviews that he does with people. I mean, they're always great and interesting. And I mean, if you like the stuff we talk about, he's got more
My
of that.
Ed Asner one just came up my feed. It was 2 years ago today that I interviewed Ed Asner.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
He's
That's
got, I mean,
cool.
he talks to all sorts of people. I mean, especially if you grew up like our age with all the cartoons and the voice actors he talks
Yeah.
to. It's great.
Thank you.
Oh.
Awesome. And you can find me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. Find the show online, facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. And, of course, don't forget our Patreon at patreon.com/Real Spoilers. So that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, Joel and Clementine decide to try again.
Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, 'cause we already warned you.